Right, guys. Bloomburrow debut video. Live reaction, okay? I cannot wait. I was not able to watch this live just due to I had to work. So, you know, life happens. But it's fine. I'm here. It's like 9 o'clock in the evening. But yeah, that's why it's a bit darker. But let's get straight into this video because I literally can't wait any longer. I'm so excited. So, let's go. Let's start the video. Hopefully it's not too loud. Okay. Okay, so they showed this little animation thing at MagicCon. It was actually really cool. Can we like petition for a full Bloomburrow anime, please? I'd watch it. And I know you guys would watch it. Now, is this Mabel? Or is this Mabel's ancestor? I think this actually might be an ancestor of Mabel, but I could be wrong. Using magic to light up their rapiers. This is so cool. The Calamity Beasts have arrived. I really hope that this guy gets a card, because if he does, you know that I am using it. Mono red, don't care. I'll do it. I will do it. How mean. Oh. Whoop. Aww. They got owned. Don't fuck with the Calamity Beast, okay? It's a definition. Chat shit, get banged. Woo! Fuck around, find out. Oh, this mouse is fucking around. He's fucking around. Oh. There we go. Another Calamity Beast. Well, I think it's a Calamity Beast. It's like a Guardian one. It's a nice one. It's a good one. They're not all evil pricks. Look, it's literally making the vegetation vegetate. I don't know. Is that a word? I don't really know. Come to life around them.
Welcome to Valley, a world filled to the brim with creatures, big and small.
Okay, this is new.
All working together as they share in the prosperity and safety of their communities.
Wow.
The largest settlement in Valley is Three Tree City, a massive dwelling at the conjunction of the forest.
I'm just gonna put my
and the
glasses
river,
on, guys.
built across three ancient intertwined trees. It's home to a variety of animal folk and designed to accommodate their different sizes and shapes. Whether these creatures are most comfortable in water, or land, or in the sky.
It's a good land.
Three Tree City has a place for them to call home.
Three Tree City.
The upper branches of Three Tree City are filled with a dazzling array of bird folk, capable of great deeds of chivalry and selflessness. The bird folk are known for their inability to ignore injustice. Perhaps nothing demonstrates the character of the bird folk quite like the Plume Creed, a risky venture to the tip of the world, a mighty peak that no one brave bird folk can reach. You can recognize a bird folk who has completed the Plume Creed by the single feather they wear atop their head.
The Plume Creed.
In this set are several booster fun treatments to collect, one being the borderless raised foil anime cards.
Wow.
Dazzling raised gold foiling and exciting anime art make these cards the apex
of collectability. It's like a bird unicorn.
English versions globally in collector boosters, and Japanese versions exclusively in Japanese collector boosters.
I like the look of these birds.
The charming new showcase woodland frame treatment leads kindred faction cards
that's
in
stunning.
Of foliage, evoking a sense of pastoral beauty and natural elegance. They encapsulate the cozy energy of Bloomburrow
finale counters. Put a 1/1 counter on each bird
fondness
control or
for
draw a
these
card.
kindred animals and express their own unique personalities.
That's cool.
The
So that
closest
actually
natural
they can
allies of
res
the
from the
bird folk
graveyards.
Are the mouse folk. Plucky, loyal seekers of adventure and glory. Mouse folk have large interconnected families.
Oh.
There are few problems mouse folk can't overcome together.
Okay.
All the animal folk of Valley cherish their young, and springtime.
Oh my god! It's a possum!
Life. The new mechanic, Offspring, enables you to create 1/1 creature tokens
Offspring.
that represent the young version of an animal.
Oh, stop it!
The offspring of your animal folk will have the same abilities as the parent creature. The only difference
They're just
is
small
their 1/1
versions.
power and toughness.
Sorry guys, I can't keep rubbing
They
my
are
eyes.
still children after all.
Oh, that is cute.
These young creatures of Valley show promise. and
Oh
are
my
eager
good
to take on the
lord.
adventures
Oh, this
that
was
lie
the
ahead.
token that was spoiled.
Rabbit folk are also community.
Oh wow,
members,
look at that
as
rabbit.
well as being talented chefs.
He's
and
got a
farmers who provide food to
shovel
most of the creatures in
strapped
the
on the end of a spring onion.
They're conflict averse as a rule, preferring to
Look at
let
that little,
trouble
oh my
blow
god, the
over
light with the
rather than
flower.
stick their noses in it. That doesn't mean that they
Oh.
won't defend themselves, though. Phineas is one such guardian
Phineas?
of the animal folk in Valley.
Rabbit Legolas.
This adeptly trained archer stands ready to
Thanks for
protect
calling
his
me,
home from
yeah,
afar,
alright.
as well as his companions as they venture through Valley.
Nice, nice.
Gathering together is a surefire path to strength.
Have you guys watched this story yet, or listened to the story?
Encourages your creatures
I have.
to band together
It was really
so they
good,
can gain
but it's very
extra
rushed.
benefits. These kindred animal folk
Phineas does some
must
cool stuff in
share
it.
with each other in order to survive. The new mechanic, Gift, allows you to gift your opponent a benefit to reap more value out of a spell or artifact. The gift varies
Gift a
depending
tapped
on the card.
fish.
It might be food
Oh.
tokens, an extra card, a 1/1 fish, or something else.
Oh, I want to give my opponent some
Their natural
fish.
durability, the strength of their kindred bonds,
Just about
and the
next time to
willingness
perform my
to
comment at the
share,
beginning of the next step.
the animal folk of Valley can survive
If the
almost
gift
anything.
wasn't promised.
There are those in
Wow.
Valley that prefer moonlight to sunlight.
Ooh.
Batfolk are
There we
deeply
go.
protective of
Wow.
their community, occasionally superstitious, and focused on maintaining the balance between all things.
Look at that. Sonar
light and
beam.
darkness, life and death, and of course, day and night.
Well, is
Not
day and
bird
night coming
creatures.
back?
They use the moon and stars to determine their choices and fuel their magic. As a result of being awake when others are asleep,
I know people don't
they
tend to
serve
like
as
that mechanic.
silent guardians of the vulnerable creatures of Valley.
Okay, life gain as you'd
Raccoon
expect from
folk are
White Black.
free-spirited wanderers, collectors, and entertainers.
It's got a good old
Moira,
trumpet.
Trash tactician, wields new mechanic Expend.
It's like
rewarding
Wolverine
you for spending
claws.
4 or more mana in a single turn.
Okay.
This fearsome raccoon also likes to work closely with fellow
Okay,
raccoon
he's
folk,
adding
adding
loads of
red or
mana.
green mana for each raccoon you control.
Doing green stuff. Cool.
Rather than settling down in Three Tree City or elsewhere, raccoons spend their lives on the move, acquiring a hoard of objects along the way.
Okay, so they're
Some
always on the
may call
move.
it trash, but to a raccoon, every broken teapot and piece of wagon wheel is a treasure.
Right, they're like the, you
There
know,
are even more creatures
like the
that
travellers.
thrive in odd and adverse circumstances in Three Tree City.
I'll never get in the
lizard folk
seasons.
Are a culture of expressive artists.
Mm.
They value creation and destruction
This is
in
incredible.
equal measure. Lizards also have a spiritual attachment to
Fireglass
As
Mentor.
cold-blooded creatures, they rely on the heat from flame when sunbathing is not an option.
Okay.
Lizard communities can often be found bundled together around a fire or furnace, sharing this sacred connection.
Of course. They're cold-blooded. They like the heat. And this, in Bloomburrow, that means they like fire.
The squirrel folk are morbid stewards of land and the life-death cycle.
Wow,
Though
that's
they
some gnarly
focus
squirrels.
mostly on burying the remains of the dead, a select few squirrel folk are able to bring bones back from the grave for their own purposes. The squirrel folk have also become expert at maintaining themselves through caches of food collected through the art
Okay.
of foraging.
Squirrel
The
love
mechanic
foraging for
Forage
food.
is a squirrel-themed mechanic that allows
Forage.
you to exile 3 cards from your graveyard
Or
or
sack of
sacrifice a
food.
food token to gain an effect.
Okay.
Rat folk are isolationist keepers
Oh,
of
here we go.
secrets and ancient relics. They have survived harsh circumstances by forming psychic connections with native insects. With their insect companion by their side, rat folk can be quite formidable in a pinch.
Okay.
Down by the waterways of Three Tree City, entirely different
Rats and
groups
insect
make their
allies.
home. The otter folk are playful and fun-loving, with a strong daredevil streak. They seek thrills by storm chasing, the practice of following menacing creatures called
Look at that.
Calamity Beasts as closely as possible, until the danger becomes too great even for these adventurous critters.
So we knew this spell. Oh, it was going to be spell
The
slingy.
frog folk are curious and intelligent. They possess a unique culture of augury, which allows them a limited understanding of the future. While their foresight makes them an instrumental part of life in Valley, it also results in many frogs being fatalistic. It's hard to smile when you can always see the waiting doom.
So they're like
Sometimes
the
frog folk,
psychers,
acting on
like
their own
they can.
foresight, can bring doom upon themselves.
And they look
The
into the
wizard Blar,
waters and
for
see the
instance,
future. Kind of like Game of
recently
Thrones, where they look into the
stolen an egg from
flames,
the
but these
great night
guys
owl,
look into the water.
inviting retaliatory
There it
attacks
is.
from the
There's
powerful
Maha.
winged creature of
And she is
darkness.
black
This
card.
legendary
Flying,
elemental
trample,
bird
ward.
carries night
Creatures
on
your
its wings
opponent's
that
controls
blackens
have
the
base
sky.
top. Oh
Maha is just one of the many
my
dangers
god.
across Valley.
That is
These animals
disgusting.
must coexist with calamity
Eater of all.
mighty creatures. with
Oh, I
a
love it.
line between flesh and blood animals and elemental forces of nature.
This is what it's all about, the
And
Calamity
for
Beasts.
naturalists, the borderless field
Oh
medicine
my goodness,
captures
look
the
at these
raw
cards.
power
Other
of Calamity
creatures are
Beasts,
food or
rendered
artifacts.
in the wild by a loving
Mistletoe
hand.
types. You
But
can just
the people
eat
of
other
Three Tree
creatures?
City are not helpless. The great hero
Is that your opponent's
forms a
creatures
party
as
of
well?
adventurers to
Can I
protect
sack my
Valley
opponent's?
against the
No, surely
Calamity
not.
Beasts,
I don't know.
aided by the now transformed Ral Zarek.
Oh,
who
there's
is more
Ral.
than happy to lend a paw.
You guys not going
Since
to
there
tell
are
it.
no
Okay, Ral.
humans to be found on Bloomburrow, Ral has magically
Okay.
transformed
He creates
into
his
an
otter
otter
friends.
upon arriving on this plane.
Draw 3 cards and discard
How
cards. Cool.
interesting.
Draw 3 cards, you get an emblem.
But even
Inspiration,
without
Storm.
help from
Okay.
allies outside of Valley, the animal folk are capable of using magic to defend themselves.
I love it.
A
It's just
cycle of modal spells allows you to select from a
choose up
list
to
of
5
free
word
abilities.
of modes.
In this set, they're each valued at 1, 2, or 3
Okay, is
paws.
this like Spree?
Choose up to 5 paws worth to gain those effects. You may even choose the same.
Oh,
number
okay, it's
than
different to
once.
Spree. Because you can only...
The card type class
spend
is
a certain
returning
amount.
with a focus on bakers, blacksmiths, artists, and other villagers. Pay
Okay.
the mana cost at each level to gain its ability, working your way down to all 3.
Okay.
Life goes on in Valley. The turning
Oh,
of the
here's the
seasons,
lands, the
the
seasonal
taming of the
lands.
earth, and the
Nice.
occasional upheaval
We've seen the
are
mountains.
all aspects of the everyday to these brave critters. It is
Yeah,
not
these
the
are ones we've
mighty
seen.
warriors that make Three Tree City what it is, but the little folk who carry
Wow.
on day after day.
That's wild, but the thing is
There
they
are
don't even
also
look.
heroes and commanders
Because
in
the
Valley
seasons,
who
it's
are
hard to
truly
tell that
adept
they
at
are
inspiring the animals
the
around
lands
them.
that they're supposed to be.
Led by Bello.
Oh, here we
Guard of
go.
the Brambles, the animated army deck lets you ramp into
This is gonna be
impressive
my deck, I
Calamity
think.
Beasts, cast expensive permanents to synergize with the main set's Expend Mechanic. With Commander Zinnia,
Okay.
Valley's Voice, the Family Matters deck specializes in doubling up on enters the battlefield effect.
This
by
deck
granting
makes lots
your
of
creatures
babies.
Offspring. Fill the board with 1/1
Okay.
token versions of
Wow,
your creatures.
that is gonna be a
Hazel
fun
of the
deck.
Root Bloom leads the Squirreled
Hazel
Away
of the
deck.
Root Bloom.
Outvalue your foes with a combination of squirrel and food tokens.
Yep,
This deck includes some traditional kindred effects for squirrel fans.
cool.
With the Peace Offering deck,
Oh, here we go. Miss
Bumbleflower
Bumbleflower.
hands out cards using the gift mechanic.
It's gonna be Shannon's deck
This
if you've
deck
seen her from my
evokes a
vlog,
group
my
hug
sister.
style of play that's friendly until it isn't. In addition to the main set's Imagine Courageous
Oh, there's Tamio.
Critters cards, Tamio is one of 4 that can be found in the Commander decks. Because Bloomburrow has its own unique aesthetic, planeswalkers and creatures who happen to end up here, like Ral, are transformed into denizens of Valley. With the Imagine
Are we gonna see the
Courageous
Jace card?
Critters treatment, your favorite planeswalkers and creatures have been
Oh, I just
utterly
wanna
transformed by the
actually-
adorable
oh, look at
Bloomburrow,
that squirrel!
which brings out their inner animal folk. See powerful creatures and favorite planeswalkers as squirrels, birds,
Look at Tamio's
bats,
ears.
otters, and more. Like this slide.
Oh, there it is. There's Jace.
He were to appear here in the land of animal folk.
Draw 3 cards and physical cards.
And characters aren't the only ones to get.
Oh, he's got 4 abilities. Oh, cards.
Powerful weapons also take on new forms.
Sword of Fire and Ice. Okay.
The
Cool.
Sword of Fire and Ice
Bloomburrow art.
looks a little different when wielded by an otter.
It does.
If you'd
cool.
like to visit Three Tree City and all the creatures of Valley,
I do.
you'll have your chance soon. You
Oh.
can play early at your local game store.
I will be.
Release starting the weekend of July the 26th and on MTG Arena on July the 30th.
It's too
Otherwise,
long.
We'll see you on August the 2nd when Bloomburrow will be available everywhere. Keep an eye out for the Buy a Box promo.
Ooh,
Bundle
Flub's the
promo
Fool
cards.
and bundle promos. Flood the Fool. Yeah,
Learn
cool.
more about the adventures of Mabel and her party with story episodes now online at magic.com.
Already ahead of ya. I've watched it all.
Until then,
Not a flex or
we
anything.
hope you'll come visit us soon in our peaceful valley under the trees.
That was little Helga. He's actually kind of like the main character, actually, in the story. It's not actually Mabel. She's like Mabel's like the main hero, I guess, but main character's actually Helga. Oh, that was just too much for my brain to take in. There is an after show, so I'm going to be watching that as well. But yeah, oh my god, that's just got me so excited. I just want to actually get a proper look at all those cards that have been revealed. I am just so excited for Bloomburrow. Yeah, there's not much else to say, but so excited. Right, guys, firstly, I really want to apologize because I've realized that my image box was way too big in that last video, and I was covering so much of the cards, so I'm so sorry. But at least you got to see my live reaction of the cards. But we'll be going into the cards anyway. So yeah, we got the after show now, which is the long one, because that was a lot to take in and process. Everything was just like blah 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 being thrown at you at once. So yeah, we're gonna sit down now and watch the after show. So super excited. So let's get started.
Bloomburrow. Hopefully you've just seen a ton of cool stuff from the upcoming set. We're going to spend the next hour diving into a lot of what you've just seen, including mechanics, the archetypes, Calamity Beasts. We're going to see some promos. We're of course going to look at preview cards. But we're going to dive
I wonder if we're going to see
all of that and
any other cards that weren't in that video
behind this adorable set.
I mean, I'd be happy if they just let
me
go into those cards that were revealed a bit more detail, because there was a lot there.
Hey everyone, I'm Ian Duke. I was the
snacking on some dates, Nature's Caramel.
I was responsible from taking the vision handoff all the way through iterating on the card set itself, sculpting the limited format, and seeing the set through playtesting process.
All right, Oliver.
I'm Oliver. I'm a game designer, part of the play design team.
Close your eyes.
I worked a lot on Bloomburrow during its set design process and worked a lot on the limited and standard applications of the set.
Great. So, yeah, these are two of the best people to walk us through this set. So we're going to start going through a bunch of mechanics and preview cards and all of that sort of stuff. If you have questions, go ahead and put them in chat. I'm not going to guarantee we get to them because we've got a lot to get through today. It always helps me if you tag @Magic, and I'll keep an eye out for them and ask what I can. But we're going to launch right into it with one of the coolest new mechanics, Ian. I say coolest, but it's adorable.
Offspring.
Which is Offspring, and our first preview card, which is pretty
Here we go.
here, Warren Warleader. Which is
right, we can have a proper look now.
With that Offspring ability, and whenever you attack, you either get to make a rabbit or give everything +1/+1. So tell us about
as you cast it.
Ability.
Yeah, Offspring
you create the baby.
Sort of a kicker-like mechanic that appears on creatures, where if you spend a little bit of extra mana, you get an additional copy of that creature.
And then when you attack, you create another white rabbit coverage token. So you basically, you would have this and the baby. If you the baby is a copy of this, so you swing with both, suddenly you create 2 tokens.
Multiple copies of them from using the Offspring mechanic, they kind of combo together in some way. So the Warren Warleaders.
Or you can attack with both and give all your creatures +2/+2, because there'll be 2 of them.
Make tokens or give your team a boost.
Wow.
Or you can kind of mix and match the 2 over the course of
fun.
Great. And I noticed something down there. This token's mana cost is 2 white. And
That
I
Warren
saw a question
war
in
leader
chat asking,
baby
do tokens always
is
have a mana value?
They
cute
do,
as fuck,
they are
isn't it?
copies of the creature, so they inherit the mana value that the base creature has.
That art's
Okay, they're
very
all adorable
different.
Little 1/1s.
Yes.
Do they all
On
come
the
with little
left.
tokens like that?
They do. They all have their each.
It's like a
individual
painting.
token, so you can kind of collect those as you go.
And I think we've got another Offspring card here with its own adorable little token. Tender Wild Guide.
Here we go. So we didn't see the card for
Sean was
this.
adamant about us getting
Tender
this
Wild
one in the
Guide.
show.
Possum
Possum.
Druid.
And it's adorable. It's got its little
It
buddy
is
there.
adorable.
Makes mana, can put +1/+1
It's a mana
counters on
dork.
creatures.
So if you don't know, that means you could tap
Alright.
it to add a mana value card.
Next, let's
Or put
move
one card on a
on
creature.
to another
You get two.
mechanic
So you get
that's really
two
nice.
mana
It's
dorks. I've just realized that's
stuff,
actually
Oliver. So
really
tell us
good.
about Gift and this first card, Kidnap.
Yeah, so Gift is also similar to Kicker, except instead of paying additional mana, you give your opponent, or in multiplayer, you get to choose an opponent to receive the
I think that's
gift,
quite funny.
And it's a
So these are
often
all,
a
yeah,
card,
these are
food,
cards we didn't
or
see.
a fish token.
The fish token one makes me happy. Gifting a fish just, it feels very
Makes me
Bloomburrow.
happy too.
Yeah, so depending on how powerful the reward is the gift they are giving kind of is
So
related
gift
to
a
that.
card. You may promise an
card is
opponent a
generally,
gift as
like,
you
the
cast a
most
spell. If you
costly
do
gift.
when it enters,
Okay, so tell us a little bit about
they
Kidnap
draw
here.
a card.
Yeah, so Kidnap, it's either, if you don't give the gift, it's kind of a delayed mind control because you can't start attacking with the creature until 3 turns later. But if you do give the gift, you get a full mind control.
Oh, I
It's
get
not
it. I didn't
card
really
advantage
understand
in
that
the same
first,
sense
but
mind control generally is.
So you
because
enchant the
you're giving a
creature,
card, but you get a
and
big tempo advantage, so it's still a very powerful play.
if the gift
Alright,
wasn't
we have
promised,
another
you can't
gift
use that
card here
creature
shown
for
as
a
a
good
simpler
while.
version
So
of the gift
it's
mechanic.
very much an incentive
Wear
to give
down,
them the damn gift.
Is this,
Otherwise,
what,
you. I
Oliver,
mean, you
is
take
sort
the
of the
card
balance
if you
that we
want to
see
remove the
between
blocker,
different
but you wouldn't be able to
kinds of
use it
gifts in the set?
against them.
Yeah, so I'd say if you're getting like a full card and reward, generally you're giving a card.
Okay.
If you're getting a more minor reward.
At least you have
then
the option
you'll
to
get
be
the
like, no,
gift
screw
or,
you. I don't want to give you the
token.
gifts.
Okay, so yeah, so like wear down here, it's
Wear
a
down.
naturalize effect, but you can destroy 2 if you give a card,
Yeah.
like you said.
For
Cool.
2
Makes sense.
mana?
Alright, now let's look at Expend. So we've got one.
So the gift is they draw a
mentor
card.
here. So Ian, tell us a little bit about Expend.
Expend
That's
is a
good though, if you
mechanic
destroy 2
associated with
artifacts.
The raccoon creature type
enchantments.
that appears in red and green. And
So
what
Expend
says
is the
when
raccoon
you spend your 4th
mechanic.
mana on casting spells this turn, you get a little bonus. And you
So
can
they
sort of
just
divide that up
they
into
create
choose
lots
you
of
can cast
mana,
one
and then you're
spell that costs
rewarded
4 more mana, or
for
you can
spending
cast,
loads
say,
of
2
mana.
spells that cost 2 mana each, and when you cast
Eh.
the second one, you'll get your Expend trigger. And it always appears on permanent cards, typically creatures like this, where you'll get the bonus after you cast spells when this is already on the battlefield.
And I see it specifically calls that Expend 4. Are there different mana costs with Expend in the
Yeah, I
set?
sort of glossed over that a little bit. There are a few cards that have different Expend costs, but most of them are 4 at lower rarities. And then there's a couple
Expend
more
4 as
exciting
you spend
ones
your
at high
4
rarities
time
that
mana
have, I think
to
Expend
cast
8
spells.
is one of the
Whenever you
examples.
expend
Well, I
4,
think we
put
saw
1
one
counter
of the more exciting
on.
ones in the debut.
Mentor.
So let's look at and wear a Trash Tactician. So this one again has that Expend 4, but it does have Expend 8 as well.
Yep, so you sort of get the basic or the moderate bonus if you spend 4 mana in a turn, but if you can spend all the way up to 8, you get that big exciting bonus as well.
Makes sense. Now,
Okay.
we haven't paused on this yet, on the treatments, but, you know, we showed
Yeah,
a lot of
I'm not
treatments in
that
the debut
excited
video,
about
Ian, and
Expend.
Then we also have shown a couple here. So let's start talking about these. So this is the Borderless Raised anime card. Where and how can people pick these up?
So
I don't
these are
really
available
understand
in
the,
collector boosters only, and they're all in the foil raised treatment. There are 20 cards.
I
in
don't
the set that have
understand.
this
I don't
treatment.
I don't
You can get
understand the
them in
flavor of the
boosters
raccoons
any
at
language.
Expend.
They'll usually be English language, but the Japanese collectors boosters have
The front said, like,
Japanese language
trash.
versions of them as well.
Cool.
Unless the trash
Alright,
is
we'll talk more
mana.
about treatments as we go along, but if you have questions about
use the
treatments,
trash up. I don't
we
really
will
know.
try to answer those.
I thought we'd get something a little bit more
Chat.
interesting than this for the raccoon mechanic.
I will pause and say I'm seeing a lot of questions in chat about bans. We're not going to talk about that today. We're here to focus on Bloomburrow, so we'll get to that. Don't worry. Another day, another time. Today we're talking about Bloomburrow. So let's go to the next mechanic, Oliver, which is Forage. So Forage, we've got Thorn Vault Forager here, appropriate name. It's a 2-mana 2/2.
Another mana dork.
Mana dork, but it has
Add
that
2
forage,
mana in any
add
collection
2
of
mana
colors
in
if
any
you
combination
forage.
of colors. It's also
This is
able to search
cool.
for a
This is a
scroll,
cool mechanic,
which is the ability
Forage.
we've all been waiting for a long time.
You
But,
exile 3 cards
Oliver,
from your
let's
library,
focus on
or you
Forage.
get to
What
sack a
is
food to
Forage?
get an extra
So
ability.
Forage is the black-green squirrel mechanic. You basically, to enable it, you have to sacrifice a food or exile 3 cards from your graveyard. So naturally, squirrels are going to be about acquiring food or putting cards in the graveyard. It's fun to combine these two things. Definitely a very black-green feeling ability.
Yep, and we saw
Squirrel card, reveal it,
card in
brings
the
your hand.
debut as well. So I love.
So
Thorn-
you're
Thorn
foraging.
Forager, but let's bring up Ossimancer
And you're using that food, which is cool.
Oliver, tell
Why
us
are you
a bit about
exiling
this
cards from your
card as well.
graveyard?
Yeah, so
From a,
this is kind
from
of
a
like
flavor
a
standpoint.
Underworld's Breach for creatures, so it's less reputable than Underworld's Breach. But
If you've got an
still
idea,
gives a
let me
lot
know
of
in the
the
comments
same
below.
kind of
Maybe I'm being
big
stupid and
turns.
missing something.
And
So you may
I'd say with
cast
this
creature
one,
spells
it's
from
a
your
lot
graveyard by
about,
foraging in addition
you
to
wanna
paying its
acquire
other,
food to enable
other
it a lot
costs.
of the time.
If you
because
cast spell this way, that
naturally,
creature
if you
enters
use cards
with
from your
that.
graveyard, you'll have less creatures
Cool,
to
so
bring back.
to be honest, I've
black,
already got 2
you know,
graveyard
better at getting
themed.
cards
Well,
into the
one
graveyard
main
than
graveyard
acquiring
themed, and the
food,
other one
so if you're playing like a
is
non-squirrel
also
deck,
fairly
it's probably gonna be more
graveyardy.
about
So I
using cards in your
probably
graveyard to
didn't
enable
need
this.
another graveyard one.
In the showcase,
But I
of
do
the
like
preview,
graveyard
we've seen
themed
a
decks,
little bit
so-
of that so far,
The
Ian,
Forager
so
mechanic,
tell
I
us the
think, is
story
actually
behind
quite
that.
cool. Like
So the
sacking
Showcase
food to
Woodland
get.
treatment
Ooh!
is
I
available
just
in
kicked my
both collector
phone.
and play boosters, and you can get foil or non-foil versions of the cards. There's 42 different cards in the set. 7
Oh,
of them are mythic, and the rest are
Osteomancer
regular boosters.
Adept. That is just a scary looking
also a
squirrel,
build
man.
On the different treatments, we will have a collective
It made
Bloomburrow
sense as
article
well
going
because in
up
the
at
story there was
conclusion
like
of the show that will have
squirrel
all the details. So
necromancers.
If you're in it for the nitty gritty, you'll definitely have that resource after the show.
I hope that doesn't upset anyone
Alright,
in terms
now,
of spoilers. Not really a
this
spoiler,
is-
but
this
you know.
next card is a returning mechanic, Oliver, which
But if you
or
consider it a
thanks for
spoiler, I'm
joining
sorry.
me Here, which we showed in the debut, which are the enchantment type class.
Okay, so class is
Here we
back.
have Hunter's Talent.
Depending
when
on
it
like
enters,
their
creature you control deals
their
damage
job in
equal to
Bloomburrow.
power,
So this is
it's,
for
lightning spell,
hunters.
in that way. And then the
Whenever
second
Hunter's
level
Talent
is
enters,
whenever you
target
attack,
creature you
target
control
creature
is.
+1/+0 and trample. And then at the beginning of your end step in level
And you just
3,
level it
if
up
you
if by
control
paying
a
mana.
bigger creature, you get to draw a card. So tell us a bit about classes, Ian.
Yeah, so this is
Okay.
returning mechanic, as you said. We first saw it in AFR, Adventures in the Forgotten Realms, and there these were classes, sort of like D&D.
So they're
character
not like
classes,
sagas. You don't
Warrior,
get them
Paladin,
automatically.
Barbarian,
You have
things
to
like that.
pay mana
Here
to
we're
level
going
them
for
up.
more sort of like
If you've not
pastoral,
seen classes before.
like
I've never
jobs that
actually
you would
used
see in a
classes
village,
cards.
like a fisherman or a hunter.
So that'll be
something along those
cool.
lines.
Okay. What led you to include classes in this set?
It's just a really flavorful way of sort of showing the way that the animals sort of get together and have their own societies and structures and different jobs.
That's cool. Yeah, I like
All
that.
right. Next,
I'm all
up,
for the
we're gonna
flavor.
look At this is one of the coolest cycles in the set, Oliver. It's a mythic set. There's 5 of these. Only 5 of these. But these are the seasons. So let's take a look at Season of
Ooh,
Loss.
wow.
And,
Look
yeah, the card
look
itself,
at
very
that
cool.
artwork
You can play
on that
sacrifice creatures,
borderless.
draw cards for creatures that die.
Choose to 5. Oh,
and
these are the
then
mode cards that we saw.
life, but let's-
So you can
the
actually
pulse
choose
is a really cool innovation.
multiple
Tell us about that.
Yeah,
of the
so I
same
like to think of these as,
ability.
like,
So just
currency
choose up to
cards.
5,
You
but you
basically
could
get
just
5
like
currency,
choose.
and then,
Each player
depending on how
sacrifices a
powerful
creature
each
5
ability
times.
is, it
And it says
costs,
up to 5, so you don't even
an
have to do
according amount
5
of
if you don't want to.
currency. So naturally, like the 3 is going to be the most powerful, and that's the only one you can't choose multiple times.
Ah, okay,
But
so obviously you're not going to be able to choose
these
the
are kind
3
of similar
multiple
to
times.
commands from Brothers War. They're
Okay.
just like modal big effect.
What is the
cards,
artwork on
but
that Seasons of Lost on
unlike
the
commands,
left?
you
I'm going to
have,
take a look.
More customizable ability.
Yeah.
And it's important to note that
Looks
these
like a
are all self-contained. So like as
painting?
you're resolving the spell, you're spending all these points on the
That on
different
the
modes.
right
It's
is
not like a mechanic
incredible.
like
There's a
you can
Calamity
save
Beasts.
this currency over and
Sure.
there's
That's
some
just
stuff, right?
looks
Yeah,
like
so you
almost like the
couldn't
wolf,
do
and
the
it's just
2
burnt
twice,
everything
like,
down,
like
and then
you
the
Save
Right,
it
I'll
all.
save
little
1 point for
squirrel
every-
hiding
It doesn't work that way.
No,
for its life.
Also on this one, the order matters. Like
Stunning.
since
I
you- if
love
you
that
choose,
card.
like,
Each player sacks a creature.
3 ones
Draw a
and a
card
2,
for each creature you
the
control
stack will have
that
to happen
died this
first, and then
turn.
You draw cards accordingly afterwards.
Now, we
Okay,
talk
each
a lot
opponent loses
about
X by X
design
number of
knobs
creatures.
when we're talking about
Oh,
this seems to have
wow.
a lot of knobs.
Do you
How
feel that graveyard?
challenging
Drop
these
this
designs?
These were
down.
really challenging, but we knew early on they
You'll
were
be
worth
doing a
it, just
lot
the
of
sort
damage.
feeling of you get to mix and match and choose your own combinations.
Sack
and sort of,
decks,
these
you
are
just
many
drop
cards
this
in
down
one
after
in a sense because they have
Ooh.
so much flexibility and so many different ways.
Drawing
to
lots of
combine.
card
But we did
draw. draw,
effort into making sure that the different
removal.
modes made sense with each other and combined in
That's a
interesting
nice
ways.
card. And
Each
like cards like
different
this, they're just so
combination of modes sort of
flexible
produces
because
a
you can
different series
just
of effects
pick
in
the
a
mode
interesting way.
that suits
let's
your.
look at another season
game
as well.
state, I
That'll put us
guess.
up to, I think 3 seasons for the day.
So we got different
Season
ones.
of the Bold.
Season
so
of the Bold.
Same. They're all 5 paupers.
So
right?
all
All
the
same
regulars look
yeah.
like they're going
Yeah,
to
I
be
think
like
that is really good.
paintings.
Yeah, we tried mixing different
Almost
numbers,
like
but
they're
5 is
paintings of kind of like
All right,
old
so,
ancient
The
history.
single paw print mode on this one is create a tapped treasure token.
On the
2
right
is
are like
exile the top 2 cards of your library until the end of your next turn. You may play them,
more
and 3 is until the end of your next turn. Whenever you
like-
cast a spell,
almost like
Season of the Bold
anime
deals 2 damage to up to 1 target creature. So Oliver, tell us a
action
little bit more about
shots,
this.
I should say.
Yeah, so this card is a lot more delayed than the
Touches
black
to-
one, but it
Your
enables
library
some really
until the
big
turn, you may
things,
play them.
if you
Okay,
just
until the end
are
of the
able
next
to
turn,
spend
whenever
your
you
turn
cast a
5
spell.
just kind of taking off and setting up.
Mm-hmm.
But
Whenever
with
you
the
cast a
extra
spell,
mana from treasures, extra cards, and
until the
the
end of your
powerful,
next turn.
board wipe ability, you can
I
have
mean,
some really
it's 5
big
mana.
pop-off turns the following turn.
Now I noticed that this creates tap treasure tokens, which seems to be
But if
something you
you've
all are
got
doing
lots of
a little
cheap
bit more
spells,
often. Is that intentional
It
shift?
could be
Yeah,
good.
very much so. It's just a little bit safer in terms
Got
of
a
like,
lot
the
of mana
explosivity
in
of having a big
Commander.
combo turn and so forth. In this case, you're getting 5 treasure tokens if you spend all of
Ah,
your points on the first
okay,
load.
you could
So we didn't want you to
literally,
be able to get,
yeah,
like, all of your
5
mana back
treasure
all at
tokens.
once, and then continue casting a bunch more spells.
You didn't want it to be a ritual that, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, it's more, it can be a ritual, but it's sort of at least
A
delayed
delayed,
by 1
yeah.
turn, right? So you're
Okay.
starting your next turn.
Very cool. And there are 5 of these. They're all mythic.
I like these mode
And
cards.
they all get that really cool.
More
art
choices
treatment.
is
Actually,
always
let's go back to
nice, I
that real
guess.
quick, so that you can tell us about the borderless treatment.
Yeah, so these are example of the borderless treatment here. There are a few other cards that also have this. They're available in both foil and non-foil from both collector and play boosters.
This tiny mouse is just fucking up this huge
Yeah, the art on
beast.
these is stunning. This set really just
It is
We say
stunning.
this every set, but you know we hit a new level again here. The art is amazing and weird and pastoral and dark and all the kind of things. I don't know. I'm really happy with it. And we're gonna see more cool art.
Hey, you should be, Blake.
With we're gonna talk about the archetypes.
Should
next.
be.
So next up, we're gonna go through all 10 of the archetypes. So Ian, why don't you first tell us kind of about the structure of the set with the different creatures and archetypes?
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, the set has a really strong emphasis on creature types. And to reflect that, each of the 2 color pairs in limited when you're drafting will be associated with a particular creature type. So for
We know
example,
this.
in white-blue, we have birds. In red-black, we have lizards, and so on and so forth. We'll go through all of them. But the important thing to know is if you're drafting and you just choose a bunch of creatures of the same creature type, they will have a mechanical identity, and your deck will come together in a coherent way. Vice
I mean, it
versa,
makes
if
it
you put a
bloody
color pair and
easy
the mechanical thing there,
to
you'll end up
play
with a lot of
draft
creatures
then,
of the same
really.
type, so it kind of feels like
If
it's a
you're,
concept
especially if
and
you're
a very
new
cool
to
way.
Magic, you just go,
Alright,
right, I'm just
so
going to
let's
draft
start
a
things
load
off
of
with
rabbits.
bats. This
And
is
then,
the
or bats,
white,
should we
black
say? Hey, let's go with bats. Then,
Ian,
you know,
tell
you're
us
going to have a
about
coherent
what
deck.
bats
So
are
it's
up to.
beginner
So
friendly,
first
which
off,
is
all
quite
the bats
nice.
have flying, so you'll see that as a common theme among them. And their sort of mechanical theme is caring about yourself gaining and losing life on your own turn. So you've got a lot of cards that are kind of in the space.
Yeah,
of
typical
John's
white,
Pridemate,
black
rewarding you for gaining life
play
during your own
style.
turn. But because they're in both white and black, they also reward you for paying life during your own turn. So if you have, for example, a black card draw
Just
spell that
using
costs
life
you
as the
some life, it gives you
resource.
some cards that'll also often
The white
trigger
gives
sort
you
of
the
trigger
life,
abilities from
and
your
the
bats.
black taketh
So this
the
card that
life
we're showing
away
here, the
for
Moonrise Cleric, is just a very
fancy
simple
abilities.
enabler for that deck where it just attacks and gains you a life, and then it'll pop off all your triggers as a result.
Okay. Now,
Flying
how-
whenever it
we've
attacks you, gain 1
seen
life.
Gaining life as an identity.
Oh,
for
look,
white, black.
it's
We've seen
white
losing life,
or
and then
black.
How did you land on it being both for
Not
bats?
both.
Just a really interesting way of combining both white and black. You know, bats
I'm fiddling
often we
with
think
stuff.
of like vampire bats as like sucking blood, right? So it's like, you know, dealing damage but also gaining life. So it felt both flavorful and also a really unique way of combining the different color pies of white and black together.
Oh, I keep
I also
kicking
wanna go
my
back to that
phone
comment.
stand. I'm
I
sorry.
noticed that we're using hybrid mana symbols here. Can you talk a little bit about that more in the set?
Yeah,
we do
is
have
that
a
going to
cycle
be
of hybrid mana commons, and they're meant to sort of be
Common?
a little bit of a signpost in terms of teaching you what that archetype is about. But because they're hybrid mana, they can sort of blend into the other archetypes as well. And this is a simple enough one that, you know, any deck might.
So
wanna
you
use
could
this,
just
for
use
example,
the
like
say,
the
for
white
example,
deck
if
that's
you
about
draft a
the
white
birds that also
white
fly,
green
for
rabbit
example,
deck,
might
you
wanna
could actually
include this.
technically
This is a
still
nice
slap
card
this
that
in
lets
there.
your opponent gaining
if he
1
wanted
life
to,
as you're
because
attacking
it's
with an
white
invasive creature.
and
All right, and we are going to show off all
black,
of the,
or blacks, I
great
should say.
cycle of commons. All
So
right,
just take note that is
let's move
relevant,
over to
where it's got the little
Oliver
half
and
symbol
talk
there.
about
That's what that
rats
means.
With Mind Drill Assailant
Oh
here.
my
So
gosh.
Threshold, we
This
saw in
guy
the
looks
preview
cool.
is returning. Talk a little
Mind
bit about that and how it
Drill
works with the rats.
Assailant.
Yeah, so rats are all about thresholds. You just want to put cards in your graveyard. As you see,
Rats
this
are
one
about
prevails to
threshold.
Kind of enable itself.
As
There's
long as
also
you, as long as
self-mill
7
looting.
or more cards are in your
Naturally,
graveyard,
blue-black likes
Joe
that kind
mentioned
of
it gets
stuff.
+3.
And I'd say the rats also have kind of like a ninja flair about them. They have a lot
Okay.
of like hard to block creatures. They're a lot about nickel
Seville
and diming
one
your opponents rather
for
than
3
just
mana.
going for a big swing. Although this card is certainly capable of that. As you see, it becomes a 5/5 when you have the thresholds.
Well, I think our next preview card
Cool.
talks a little bit more, or shows a little bit more about that.
I mean, it's a 4
diamond
mana,
here.
so it's still not amazing.
Yeah, so this creature
Shoreline
helps enable
Looter.
your other thresholds and
Can't be
itself with
blocked.
the looting.
Threshold.
And then eventually just starts getting you full.
No,
card
should
damage,
play
which is
It can't be blocked, and
Yes,
whenever it does
really
come out
want-
demonstrate, you draw a card, then discard a card, unless
Next,
7 or more cards
let's
are in your
move
graveyard.
on
Cool.
to one that is sure to be a fan of
Okay.
favorite Ian, which is blue-red otters. This might be my favorite creature type in the set. They're adorable.
Wow.
But they're also spell slingers. So
I love
tell
his
us
hat.
about, this otter wizard. And
He's got this
otters
like
in general.
glowing
Yeah, I mean, like you said, otters were super
Blue
popular throughout playtesting here. This
potion,
is the Spellslinger deck that
almost.
cares about casting instants and sorceries. So you'll see, for example, a lot of the otters have prowess or caring about instants and sorceries in some other way. And there's a couple
Yeah, I
different
mean,
ways you can
I'm
build
not
this deck. You can either
usually
sort of be
drawn
the
towards
classic,
spell slingers, but I'll
tempo-oriented
tell you
blue
what,
deck where
these
you're playing some early
otters
creatures
would
with
be
prowess
the
and
reason to
instants
get
and
me to build
sorceries,
a
and
spell
then
slinger
following
deck.
it
I'll
up
say it
by
now.
removing your opponent's creatures.
They look
or
very
bringing them off
cool.
balance with bounce spells or stun spells. So that's one way to do it. The other way to do it is more of a
Yeah, he could get
controller
out of
blue-red
control
deck
pretty
that's focused
quickly if
more
you
on
just
card
let him stay on the
advantage
field.
with,
Every
a
time
lot
you
of removal
cast a
spells,
non-creature
and you're trying to
spell.
prolong the game and then
Here we
finish
go,
your
Stormcatch
opponent later on.
Mental.
Yeah, and
Mate,
here's one of those
look at
prowess
this.
ones you're talking about. This seems like a powerful little wizard that combines a
Oh,
couple
that's
abilities
gonna
we've
be a
not
good
seen in the
card.
same place before.
Yeah, absolutely. This is
Making
one
your
that,
spells
they even
cheaper,
have
of
some
course.
applications for constructed decks as well, just in terms of being able to pop off with a big flurry
Yep.
of spells in one turn and then hit your opponent.
That's a
for
good
bunch of
card.
damage.
All right.
Mm.
Next
Those are
up,
like the
we're gonna
pearls,
switch
those
to
little balls. They're the
black,
pearls that they
red,
collect
some
and store the magical
lizards
energy
with
in.
Cinderling?
Oh,
no,
wow.
Cindering Cutthroat. A
Look
lizard
at this
assassin, which
lizard
is a heck of a
assassin.
creature type line. But Oliver,
Oh
tell us
my
what the
goodness.
lizards are up to in this set.
Yeah, they're pretty aggro. They're like a bloodthirst type of archetype, so they're all about getting advantage after you dealt a bit of damage to your opponent. So
My
really
glasses
good
are
with like
blaring
pinging
up.
effects and small unblockable creatures to enable it.
Okay, it seems to me
Okay.
like some of these, we're getting. a
They
look
get
at,
stronger as
we're going
you
through the
drain your
archetypes,
opponent
and
from
It
life.
seems to me like some of them are built to be. Some of the archetypes are built to be a little bit more closely associated. So like we look at the
Just
black white
typical
common, which it attacks. and makes
Rakdos,
them lose,
I
or
should
you
say,
gain a
yeah,
life.
black red.
But their abilities to lose life.
Playstyle.
The lizards care about losing life. Are there any color pairs that are more intentionally, like more closely tied?
Yeah.
It's not
one
very
example of that, and we'll
flavorful,
see
is
this
it?
A little bit later on is the Sultai color pairs, blue, black, and green.
I mean, I'm not-
all
I-
care about the graveyard
I'm
in
not a
some
card
ways.
designer,
We
so
saw the Squirrel Mechanic
I guess it'd be
earlier on,
really
blue
hard to
action
do something
Forage,
really
where you can
flavorful for
exile cards
every
from your
animal.
graveyard to help pay for costs. On the flip side, rats. care
Unless
about
there is a kind of
threshold, right?
flavor
Both
thing,
those
I'm just
decks
not
want to fill the
thinking.
Graveyard. That would be an example, and we did.
The
put some
lizards
effort
aren't very
into making sure that it
bloodthirsty.
was blending from one archetype to the next because we didn't want them to be
So-
totally siloed. Like the mice are doing one
I
thing,
don't
and
know.
the birds are doing
Doesn't
something
feel very
completely different,
lizardy.
Because then sort of
I
the
thought they
draft
were
would
all
just
gonna
divide
have
up the
like
cards among
the
which archetype they
disguise
want,
mechanic,
and
because all the lizards like
we wanted to make sure there was
camouflaging.
enough blending that
That's
you
what
could
I
kind
thought
of
we was gonna
go
get
your own
for
path and mix
lizards.
and match the creature types in different ways.
All right. Well, let's actually.
I thought that would be really
squirrels
cool.
Next. So black-green squirrels is our next archetype. We have Corpse Buried Cultivator, which is a heck of a card name there. At the beginning of combat on your turn, you may forage, and whenever you forage, put a +1/+1 counter on it. Yeah, talk about this card.
Yeah, so this is telling you just what the squirrels are about doing, which is foraging here. So you can either
Okay.
fill your graveyard and exile cards from your graveyard, or create food.
A
exile
rare
and play
fruit
food,
grows from the
and
corpses of
this card
Calamity
rewards you
Beasts,
for any of your
which
other
nectar
cards
the
foraging.
flavor
So
of
it gives you a
strength
way to
and
forage,
skin as
but also
fragile
whenever
as
any of
life.
your other cards ask you to forage, this will get bigger as well. So really kind of ties together all the different things that are going on with the Squirrels. And as you're building this deck, you can either choose to lean into the food
corpse
theme of
berries,
it, or you can lean into the graveyard theme of it and be more of like a traditional black-green mid-range deck that's maybe recurring creatures from the graveyard and things along those lines.
And our next card that's sticking with the Squirrel archetype is the secret
Squirrels
unsung
seem
hero
cool.
of the set, which is Puns. So here is Cash Grab.
Look at that lad.
you know,
Lad,
just a little
look
bit
at
more
that
about Cash
art.
Grab here.
Yeah, just
Look,
nice
he's
little
got a
smoothing
huge
utility spell,
bloody
to give you some card
nut in
quality,
his
also
mouth.
Your graveyard, which you can then
Mill
use,
4 cards.
to,
Cool. You may put a
to
permanent
pay for
card
forward
from
costs and
among
so
the
on.
cards milled this way into your
Now,
hand. If you
I
control a
do wanna say this 'cause
squirrel
this set is
or
pretty
return
high
a
in
squirrel card to your
Puns. I
hand
know
this
you're
way,
not in the group
create
that
a food
names it,
token,
but was that kind of intentional?
which you will
Did
then
y'all have a
use
lot
to
of fun with that?
forage.
Yeah, absolutely.
Look at the
It's
food
just so
token,
tempting when
okay.
you're talking about adorable little animals
Animal
to get
still.
in as many puns as you can, and certainly
Fruit.
the Vision Design team handed off a bunch of cards with,
Fruit.
you know, at the time playtest names. that
Yeah.
had puns
Flower,
in the names.
tea.
A lot of those changed over time, but in the end, the creative team did a great job making sure to capture
Oh, that's
that
cool.
fun
Like,
flavor.
again, that feels flavorful, right? Like the squirrels
The next
are
one is not a pun, but
storing, they're
let's look at
foraging their
Valley Rock
food
College.
and then
So,
using that food for abilities.
one
That's
thing I wanna
flavorful.
note
That's
here, and this
good.
is
Like, I like
highlighted
that.
in the debut is sort of the batching of creatures.
Valley
here. So can you talk a little bit
Rot
about
Caller.
the squirrels,
The
bats,
art
lizards,
on
and
this
rats?
is...
Yeah, so this is
I think I've said
something
that quite a
referred
lot,
to as
but...
batched creature typal, meaning that
Wow.
we're combining several creature types together. This is something we came up with during set design because we realized we wanted a strong emphasis on the creature types because, you know, these are lovable different
Each
types of
opponent loses
animals
X
that
life
people
and
are
you
gonna
gain
wanna
X
be able
life.
to
With
play
X
decks
and
around. But a lot
Other
of these
squirrels,
creature
bat
types
lizards,
are
and
either
rats
for
you
the first time in
control.
Bloomburrow, or there
Oh.
just aren't very many cards.
So they're
that
not
are
just
in
like,
Squirrel
oh, you have to
cards
play
throughout
squirrels.
Magic's history that have
This
these
guy
creature
benefits
types.
from squirrels,
So we
bats,
realized
lizards,
that
and
if we wanted
rats.
to care about
So as long
creature
as it's
types
a
in some
black
way, we wanted to
creature
broaden things
in
a little
Bloomburrow,
bit, so that you could maybe
it will,
combine a couple different types
do
of
it.
animals
So is
together,
that-
or play it with your choice of whichever is your favorite creature type. Within
So yeah, there are
so
strats
we
to
have,
build
cycle of
multiple
players here,
animals.
in the space of this Valley
Because
Rock card
I
that are calling out,
was thinking
four
it should be
different
really
creature
cool
types
to
each, and
build
the way
like
that
a
that
deck
works
around
is that
Radagast the
those are
Brown.
the four
If you
creature
guys haven't
types that
seen that
appear in
card,
black.
Lord of the
So
Rings card.
The black, white
He likes
bats,
he benefits
the
from
black,
different
blue squirrels, the
creature
black,
types,
green,
building decks with loads of different
sorry,
creature
black,
types.
blue rats,
So like
black,
I was
green
thinking like
squirrels, and black
to
red
build
lizards. So those
a
are the
deck
four
with
creature
loads
types
of
that
different
appear on the black
Bloomburrow
example here.
creatures.
Makes sense. And this
Although he's
card
mono
in particular is
green,
pretty
so if you
powerful
play
for
him as your
two
commander,
drop.
it wouldn't really work.
Yeah, I mean,
I think.
Oliver can maybe speak more to that, but there's
That would have been
definitely
cool.
packs a punch here.
Yeah, combination of menace and effectively unblockable drain damage definitely does a lot. Got to make sure to have 2 blockers for this one.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Next up, we'll stick with you, Oliver, and we'll talk about mice, which, well,
Let's
the
talk
most,
about mice.
probably,
Oh wow!
arguably the most adorable.
It's like an ultra realism
set.
art.
They're also pretty aggressive, Oliver.
Oh, that's new. We haven't
Mice are
seen
about Valiant,
card
which is
like
like
this.
a heroic like mechanic or ability word, but
Valiant.
has some key differences from heroic. It also triggers off abilities,
I
so
don't know
works
what
with
heroic
equipments
does.
and
I'm a noob.
targeted activated abilities from other creatures. But it only works once per turn. So it's more about having a bunch of different Valiant
So they
creatures.
like
and
becoming the
then
target of
triggering all
spells or
those
abilities?
in your turn, rather than the typical heroic gameplay, which is more about just having one heroic creature and then putting a bunch of pump effects onto that one creature.
Okay. And then, so what are the mice trying to do then when you're drafting them?
Yeah, I'd say you want to have a good combination of Valiant creatures, and I feel like equipment are the most powerful way to enable these, because you could just pay the equipment cost for each of your Valiant creatures and trigger all of them in one turn.
We knew
But
that from looking
also,
at
like,
Mabel's
combat tricks
card.
or,
That
like, bite
they were
effects go
going
a
to
long
like
way to
equipments.
enabling these.
All right.
So a typical kind
Well,
of
let's go
Boros
back
red white.
to Ian, and we've already
stuff.
talked a little bit about raccoons, but let's say sea junk.
Give me
blade
something
Bloomburrow,
exciting about raccoons, please.
And talk more about raccoons.
Raccoons are in red and green, and they're the biggest of the main supported creature types in Bloomburrow. So we wanted to emphasize that they
Raccoon
go a little bit
berserker.
bigger than some of the other
Look at
creature
the
types by using the Expend mechanic that we talked about earlier on. So this is again when you spend your Expend 4s, when you spend your 4th mana or more on casting spells in a turn, you get a big bonus here. And once again, you can do that either by casting just one big spell that costs 4 or more mana, or dividing it up among a few other spells. And it leads to some pretty interesting strategic gameplay. For example, if I have this out already and I play a 2-drop creature before I attack, you might get a little suspicious. Does that mean I have a two cost instant spell in my hand that I'm going to cast during combat?
Okay.
So you can kind of set things up in that way, or even set up some interesting bluffs where you're sort of threatening the expend happening at instant speed.
That
pretty neat stuff there.
is interesting. I
do
didn't even
wanna
think about
call out
that.
here,
That's a
the
pretty cool
Expend
way
only
to
works on
make that a
spells,
bit more
correct?
exciting.
Abilities.
Yeah, we did at times during set design, we tried it out with working on activated abilities like sacrificing food, for example. But it turned out it was a little bit too easy and a little bit too on board, right? Where you could trick your opponent with sort of like face-up ways to spend a bunch of mana at instant speed. So we ended up going with just the spell mechanic, and it plays a lot better.
All right. Oliver, let's move
Yeah,
on.
maybe it's be more fun when playing it.
Is rabbit.
I can't get that excited about Expend.
So here we've got Head of the Homestead. Look at that adorable little bunny crew there.
And have the
Head of
homestead enters great too. White.
1/1 white rabbit creature
Right,
tokens.
rabbit
Which are going to
cheese
be
tokens.
those adorable tokens on the right there. Oliver, tell us about
Fucking
the
so
green white
good.
rabbit.
My
Yeah, rabbits are
goodness.
naturally about going wide. Just want to make a bunch of rabbit tokens and
Yep.
then play like a mass pump effect to kill your opponent that way.
Lots of
And we
rabbits.
saw a rare
Go
version of this
white,
in the debut,
make
which is
babies.
Phineas Ace Archer. So tell us a little bit about
Phineas.
Phineas, Oliver.
Yeah, so Phineas is just one of those go wide payoffs.
Sorry if you're on a team.
It obviously works with rabbits, but
Each other
for
creature
more
controlled as a
backwards
token
compatibility, it
or
also just
a
works with
rabbit.
tokens in general.
Then
so
a creature
if
you
you're
control
building
with
constructed
total
deck,
power
you could
10 or
just
greater,
build
draw
a
a
normal
card.
green-white tokens deck that doesn't necessarily have a lot of rabbits.
So you can
and
use
still
Phineas as
to get
your
effects.
commander. He's a legendary creature.
And that's a commonality among, we actually have a cycle of these legendary
2
creatures.
mana,
at
1 green, 1
rare,
white.
One for each of the color
Cheap.
pairs and hence creature types. And for many of them, we wanted to make them work
Okay.
really well mechanically. with what
Whenever
the
he
creature type is doing in
attacks,
the set, but be
pump
a
him
little bit
up.
more generic, so it's not.
That
locked
I mean
in.
that
For
is
example,
that
Phineas
is
isn't locked in
bloody
just being
good.
A rabbit only card, like his Oliver.
Because
said,
you
it's
get him out
just
turn
being a
2,
token deck.
by turn 3 you're swigging with him.
We're sticking with rabbits for a
You
second.
know?
To stay on the
So
pun
you
train.
could get quite a lot of benefit out.
Here's Hop to It.
Hop to it.
Oliver, how does Hop to It fit
Yep.
into the set besides being punny?
Cool.
Yeah, so it's just
Hop to it.
easy way to go wide with rabbits. Basically, just an army
Make
in a
lots
can.
of babies.
These kind
Hey,
of cards
Miss
have had
Bumbleflower
success
said
in the
that quote.
past, and
That's the commander
hopefully this one will
of
do
the
good work
rabbit
for
deck.
your,
Finding a hidden
standard
patch of
rabbit.
glowberries is almost as joyful as eating them.
Let's move
Almost.
back into frogs. Ian, so we
There we
got a
go.
pretty simple
some froggies.
preview card here, Pond Prophet, which doesn't have the frog mechanic on it, but it's indicative of what frogs are trying to do, correct?
Yeah, frogs.
Yeah, just draw a card.
They're very much about
'Kay.
enter the battlefield effects, and that's because the
'Kay.
frog mechanics
They like
involve,
enter the battlefield
sort of
effects.
blinking and bouncing your frogs from
Oh,
the
'kay.
battlefield into exile, then back onto the battlefield or back to your hands. So you can
That
cast them
sounds
again.
fun.
So it's very much like a value-oriented deck where you're trying to reuse these enter the battlefield effects turn after turn. And so as the frog deck builds up its board, it sort of gets to a late game state where it's sort of a value engine type of a deck where you're drawing lots of cards and getting lots of value in terms of +1/+1 counters and other things like that.
I need to
using
see
your
the
frogs multiple
raccoon
times.
commander again.
Someone just noted
That sounds
this
fun,
in
though.
chat, and
Blinking.
it's been out there
Blink,
for a
blink,
little bit,
blink.
but we haven't really talked
Blinking is fun.
about it officially.
If you don't know what
Can you talk
blinking
a
is,
little
it's
bit
when
about
you
just
remove your
enters?
stuff
For the longest
and then bring
time,
it back
we've
to
been
the
using
battlefield.
enters the
Usually to
battlefield.
abuse like a enter the
We've
battlefield
not started
ability, so you can get it
enters.
twice.
Yeah, this is
Protecting your
new
stuff.
with Bloomburrow, and it's something
It's
we're
cool.
going to be doing going forward.
Like what
with
Salvation
that
Swan
books.
does.
We are always
If you saw
thinking
that, if
about
you saw
our
my video, you know I'm very
templates,
excited for that card.
and the
So.
words that go on our cards, and trying to streamline
But apparently
that,
frogs do it
streamline
too.
that and make that a better
Which is cool.
experience for our players. So we're very much, trying not to be stuck in the past. That enters the battlefield. What were the old words that we were using for quite a long time, but we realized.
Yeah,
we
the
could just
change
shorten
is so
that,
much better.
take some
Just
words
shorten
off the
it.
card, make it read
When it
more
enters.
naturally.
That's all we
natural
need.
English language, and just kind of simplify things.
Look how
going
short
forward.
that looks. It's good. It's good. Simple.
Final archetype here, Oliver. Birds. Blue, white birds. We have seed
I really like the
pod
look of birds.
Squire here. Say that 5 times fast.
Seed
And
pod
when it attacks
squire.
target creature you control without flying, gets +1/+1 until end of turn. Oliver, that's a
It
pretty
buffs
unique
your
line right there.
non-birds.
Yeah, birds are definitely pretty weird because all the birds have flying, but they want to work with non-flyers. This is largely a
Ah.
concession to limited, just because having like 2 between birds and bats of archetypes where all your creatures have flying just leads to pretty boring gameplay. You can't really block
Okay, so
individual
that's why they've
creatures,
made birds want to
birds
work
are
with
more about
other
combining the birds with
animals.
creatures from the other archetypes to enable the non-flying thresholds.
All right.
And that's
Okay.
also reflective of some of the creative elements of Bloomburrow, where the birds
I was
are
gonna
just sort of,
say,
like,
from a
helpful
flavor
creatures
standpoint.
that are kind of around helping everybody else out.
Ah, the
So,
bird. Okay, the
it
birds
makes sense
are
both
they're
from a
pals with
mechanical standpoint
everyone.
and a flavor standpoint. And one of my secret favorite
Okay,
archetypes to draft is
listen.
birds
As long as
plus
you have a
mice,
good
because
flavor
obviously
reason,
it's
I'm
heavily
all for
dependent
it.
on the valiant ability. For
I'm all
example,
for
birds
it,
that
but
are
that's why I'm not
mouse
really a
flying,
fan of
which
like the
makes it evasive,
lizards
but also triggers its
at the
value.
moment, or really the
And
raccoons,
then our next bird card is because I get to pick these.
because it
and
doesn't
it's
feel
a
very
punt.
flavorful.
So it's Strike Force. But this is flying, double strike, vigilance. What are we doing with this card in Limited, Oliver?
Okay.
It's
Flying,
a
double
strong
strike, and
standalone
vigilance.
card. I also like it in the mouse decks because you're gonna have combat tricks. So
Just
you
buff
could,
this
pump
thing
this
to
up
shit,
for
and
a lot of damage.
it's
Now,
gonna be
how,
disgusting.
I mean, obviously, you're designing white cards that are white and blue cards that are blue, but overall, you mentioned they're putting this in mice decks. How much did you pay attention to colors versus hybrid versus?
Yeah, that's the thing,
gold
because like you want to
cards
buff
to
this,
make
but
sure
your
that they
birds
fit
can't
in
buff
different
it,
archetypes
so
in
something
different
else
ways?
needs to buff it.
It was definitely something we thought a lot about. We wanted to make sure that the set, as I said earlier, wasn't too siloed and that things blended together a little bit. So in choosing, whether a card was monocolor or hybrid or gold, like a lot of it is how easy it is to cast and how many decks can it go in. So largely we tried to aim the gold cards at being very directional and teaching you what the archetypes are about. The monocolor cards being sort of a little bit more flexible than that, where they go in the archetypes, but they might be, generically useful enough that they can go in a neighboring archetype instead. And then the hybrid ones we tried to make sort of like a little bit instructional as to what that color card is doing, but also generically useful so that they can slot into other decks. If you're short on playables, you can reach for a hybrid card that was sort of meant for another deck but can slot into yours.
All right.
Yeah, so
and
these
then
cards
you
are
can
designed
see
to be able to
all
slot
10
in.
Of the common
They're made
hybrid
with like the
cards.
draft environment
Are
in
there
mind,
other
which
hybrid
is
cards
good.
in
You've
the
got to
set
have
that
cards
you
like
want?
that.
No, I
It's
believe
not
those
all
are
about
the
Commander.
commons.
Okay, there's more to Magic the Gathering than
Before we
Commander.
leave mechanics, we're
Spoken
going
from
to
an
Calamity
exclusive
Beasts next,
Commander
but there
player.
was a question I wanted to grab from
Oh,
chat.
I've
which
just-
was about the Expend Mechanic.
Didn't mean
And
to
the
do
question
that.
was, can
I'm
you
sorry.
trigger, or meet the requirements for Expend on your opponent's turn as well?
You can on your opponent's turn as well. It's obviously a little bit harder, to spend a lot of mana on your opponent's turn, but you can do it. And one other rules thing that comes up often with Expend is that you can only meet the certain Expend threshold once per turn, regardless of sort of how you divided it up or what order things come into play. It's looking at the whole turn from start to finish, how much mana you spent up until that point.
Okay.
So
And
you might
again, one of
actually
the
then want to
mechanics
hold
from the
mana
mechanics
back,
article that will go up on daily
so you can expend all your stuff
of this
and then expend your
all right,
stuff
Ian, let me go
again
back to you to
in
talk
your
about
opponent's turn.
Calamity Beasts.
So my
So,
question is, am
we
I going to
saw
have
some
a lot
in
of
the
cool
debut, but let's go over it
instances?
again. What are Calamity Beasts?
So we've seen
Maybe I
lots of
will
small
with
little
the red
adorable
stuff,
animals,
so
but
that I
with
can
the
make
Magic
sure
set,
I'm
we wanna make sure
expending
that we have variety in the cards that
in my
we're
opponent's
showing
turn
here. So we
too.
have some big, powerful, heavy hitters as well.
Unlike
These are the
Commander and
Calamity
stuff.
Beasts here, and from a creative standpoint, they sort of represent like walking natural disasters. Like the giant black bird shows up and brings nightfall with it, or the giant fish swims up, the Leviathan fish swims up and brings a tidal
that
wave
Maha
with it,
card
that
was
sort of thing.
crazy.
So we tried to give them sort of big, destructive powers to contrast the mostly like helpful. and
Show me some
community-oriented
Calamity
smaller animals that are part of
Beasts.
the 10 main archetypes.
They are the coolest
Well,
thing
let's take a
about
look
this
at
set.
our preview of a Calamity Beast here. I've got
Wee.
Beza the Bounding
This is the
Spring.
nice
I am
one.
going to read this
So it
one
is a
because
Calamity
there's
Beast.
a lot going on with this 4/5 elemental elk.
When these are the bounding
When
spring
it
enters,
enters,
create a
gain
treasure token if
treasure
opponent
token.
controls
If
more
an
lands than
opponent
you.
controls more lands than you, you gain 4 life, and an opponent has more life
You
than
gain
you.
4 life and
You
opponent
get
more life
2
than you.
1/1 blue fish creature tokens if an opponent controls more creatures than you, and you draw a card if an opponent has more cards than you. Ian,
So
what's going on with this?
Yeah,
just
so I mentioned earlier that
helps
most
you.
of the Calamity Beasts are destructive.
It
but this is sort of an
comes
exception to that rule, being the mono
to
1/1,
help you out of a
of
shitty
this particular
situation.
cycle.
Very well
And this is
designed.
bringing with it
From
sort
a
of bringing
flavor
springtime with
standpoint,
it and
I
bringing
love
lots of
this.
sort of bounty and benefits, reminiscent
Great
of cards we've seen in
cards.
the past, like
Question.
reinforcements. And this is
Why the
interesting
fuck
in
is
color
this
contrast,
mono
where
white?
it's saying like if your opponent is outpacing you and they're ahead of you in a
Surely
certain
this
aspect
should
of the
be
game, that you're
green?
catching up a little bit with this ability here.
Very cool.
Maybe not.
Now we
Maybe
saw
because
one,
the
Paul,
way
we're gonna
the
go to
card
you for this
works,
next one. We saw one in
it
the
should be
debut
white.
article. That was on the destructive side. So we've got
It just
Mara's
feels
Feathers
green to me,
Knight
though,
here.
from an art standpoint.
That's an interesting line with creatures.
Look
your opponents
at
control have base
Maha.
toughness 1.
Wow.
Yeah, a lot of interesting things you could do with this card. Combine it with like engineered plague type of cards in Commander. And,
Very cool.
give your opponents a bad time that way. And it's just a solid.
Any
hard
board
to
wipe
body
that just
by
does 1
itself
damage
that
to
does a lot
everything.
of damage. And also
Combine
enables
this
a
with
lot of
Maha.
attacks, like even if your opponent has a 6/6 blocker. in
Goodbye.
play, you can start attacking with your 1/1s and whatnot.
Yeah.
Or
And I don't recall,
if you
we
have
talked about
loads
Blue
of
Blue
1/1s,
yet.
so you're playing the
So
rabbits,
cover
and then
again,
you have
we're
Maha
putting
in your
those around.
deck.
Yeah, so
You just
these
give all your
are
opponents stuff
specifically to the
1/1,
Calamity
and
Beasts,
then
which
just
is 8
attack
cards
with all
in
your
the set.
babies.
Some of the things are all Calamity Beasts,
And then they
can
can't
appear- this
block,
treatment can appear in both
'cause
foil
they'll
and
die to your
non-foil in
babies.
both collector boosters and play boosters.
All right. Very cool.
If you're playing
next
rabbits,
up,
white,
Oliver, we're gonna
black,
run through- We've seen
green.
a couple of these, but the next
Is there
5
gonna be a white,
cards
black,
are a series
green
of uncommons that you can
commander?
get in promo packs
If
through
so,
your local
that
game
is the
store. So we've
Techers.
seen Hop to It, Shoreline Looter,
Oh, here we go.
Wear Down, and Stormcatch
Fell?
Mentor, and then we've got
Did we
Fell
see
in the
that?
middle there, which
I don't think we saw that.
destroy target creature.
Destroy
for
target
2
creature.
mana, Oliver. That's a
2
new line
mana.
of text.
Yep, just
Straight
really
up.
exciting catch-all removal spell.
Huh.
I just like how clean it is. But it has to be a sorcery.
No
whereas a lot of
drawback.
these
Oh, it's a
variants of these cards aren't, so
sorcery.
that's the
It's a
compensation for just being able to
sorcery.
destroy anything.
That is
Yeah.
the drawback.
I also have to call out that art there. We used that art
It's
pretty
still-
early on the set, but it's
Still
that's
good.
some pretty fantastic.
There's no
art on
drawbacks.
right
There's
there.
no cost.
Yeah, all these cards are not the most splashy cards, but they're very strong workhorse cards that will probably make an impact on a variety of archetypes, even outside of just the Bloomburrow types.
All right, cool. So I did notice, you've got a white card, a blue card, a black card, a green card, a gold card. Do you guys know how you ended up on that instead of grabbing a red card?
I think we were just mostly looking for just appealing cards and sort of the broader aspect of Magic, where even if you're not like super zeroed in on Bloomburrow specifically, that these are useful cards to you. So.
All right, cool. Okay, next up, we are going to talk about one of the most fun and exciting aspects of the set, which is the Imagine Courageous Critters. So these are cards that are reimagined as if they went into Bloomburrow. Because
Okay.
if you don't know,
Oh, so like in
Bloomburrow
this-
has-
oh,
has
I was gonna
Terrain has this
do
effect where
a
if you come in, you
Spoiler for
become
the story, but I
someone
can't do that.
and,
I don't want to spoil it for you
now,
guys.
some of the Courageous
But basically, it's
Critters were
not just
already animals, but they
planeswalkers
get
that have
Bloomburrow
their
into it,
forms
which is really
changed
fun.
when they come
So
into Bloomburrow.
first, before we
That's
talk
all I'm
about
gonna
this,
say.
Ian, tell us a little bit about where you can find Courageous Critters, and
So they call them
what their reality
Courageous
is, that sort of thing.
Critters.
Yeah, so this treatment, as you said, they're reimagined pre-existing Magic cards, so they're not going to be made standard
okay.
legal by appearing in these forms. These are just legal in whatever formats they're already legal, but these are cool new versions of them. And they're available in both foil and non-foil.
Is it just
These
an
ones are
art
only available in
change?
collector boosters specifically.
Okay.
I must just
The
be
one
an
exception
art
to that is
change.
that Ral is not an Imagine Courageous Critter. It's in the main set, correct?
That's right. Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
So they're not new cards. They're like
And as
reprints
you'll see
with
our first
animal
preview
artwork.
right there, not
I'm
all
guessing,
planeswalkers.
and they call them
So
Courageous
the
Critters.
first one, I've already seen.
Oh yeah,
Chat
Okay,
calling
Chatterfang.
this card forth with several
Yes.
swirl cards. But this is Chatterfang.
Wow.
Swirl
That
General.
is one of the best looking
You've got
Magic the
that
Gathering
Imagine
cards I've
Courageous
ever
Critters
seen in my
the
entire life.
Middle there, and then it has a borderless raised anime card. And as you can see, it's got
Wow.
the commander deck as well.
It's
All
coming
right,
in the
and then
commander
now
deck.
we've got
That's
a
cool.
pair of reimagined
Those are
Planeswalkers.
just
This one,
incredible.
I love this art. That's all I'm going to say.
I would build
you
a
see
squirrel deck just so I can
Nissa,
build that
who
Chatterfang.
shakes the world
Oh my god,
as a
Nissa's
frog.
as a frog.
Yeah, do you know how the creative team what animals these creatures?
I couldn't tell you off the top
We're
of my
going to
head.
have to get some people. Yeah.
Yeah.
These are incredible.
Love to find some of the stories.
I actually.
I'm
that's
not
a good
familiar
plug.
with this card. I
Next
know
week
it's
we are
obviously
gonna
an
talk
existing
about that.
card.
So next week we're actually going to reveal the slate of Courageous Critters beyond what is revealed today, and we're going to talk about a lot of the
makes
art
your
choices
lands
and
into
concepting
things.
for those.
Cool.
But first, Nissa, who shakes the world.
That's
as a
cool.
Frog. And then we have
Frog Nissa.
Liliana of the Dark Realms.
Oh
as
my
a squirrel,
god.
A dark
Liliana is a
evil
squirrel.
That's really cool. I love the color scheme.
Oh my goodness.
Yep.
I love that.
Okay, yeah. So
So these are only in the
there
collector
are,
boosters.
again, there are two types
Oh.
of the Courageous Critters. They're the ones that are from the Commander.
Take
There are ones
my
that are from the
money.
Collector Boosters, and then there are
I'm gonna
four
be
that are
so
from the
poor.
Commander.
I'll say it
Each
now.
Commander deck gets one.
That's right. Yeah,
This
4
set
exclusives to
is
the
going
deck.
to
And we saw the Tamio in the review video.
destroy
We'll see
my
the rest
wallet.
as we look at the Commander decks.
I'm actually tempted to
Finally, we
buy
saw these
collector
in the
boosters for
debut as well,
Bloomburrow.
but
And
wanna
I think
talk
collector
about,
boosters
one
are
of more
the worst thing
delightful
ever.
things you
I'll
can
say
open
it.
in packs, which are the
£20 for a booster
seasonal
pack?
basics. Ian, what's
Fuck
the
off.
story with the basics here?
So these are super sweet,
But-
sort of borderless.
I'm
full
bloody
art,
tempted for this set. The amount of cool shit that's
basic
going to be in
lands
it.
that are available in both foil and non-foil, in both the collector boosters and play boosters. And what's
These
really cool
lands
about these
are
is
really nice.
each of the basic lands has 4 different
I'll say it though,
seasons that it's available
some of these
in, so you
don't
can
look
collect all of those or choose your favorite one.
like they should.
And
Like
it's worth
that
noting that the different
swamp.
seasons appear at different
If you
frequencies.
showed me the art for
I
that
don't have the
and
exact numbers
asked
of that,
me,
but I believe spring and summer
what
are a little
color
bit more common
is that
than, for
supposed to
example,
be?
winter ones.
Yeah, which makes
Okay, that looks a little bit more.
Seasons of Plenty.
That looks
it's
more.
also in the collecting article where you can
swampy.
see the exact breakdown.
But
of how often
still,
you'll find spring,
like, how is
summer,
that
autumn,
that a
and
forest on the right?
chilly winter ones. All right, and then finally,
Yeah, a bit weird.
Before we get to, we have a little bit of time
Cool, though.
for questions. So we've got a couple more preview cards, and then we'll dive into some Q&A.
Oh, wow.
So let's look at just a couple adorable preview cards. So this is a reprint,
Run away together.
but that
Reprint.
art,
okay.
the flavor text,
Choose
it's
to
adorable. Run Away
target
Together
creatures
is always
controller.
a really cute card whenever we reprint
That
it,
is so
and this
cute.
is no exception.
Look at that. It's a little otter and frog.
Nobody bothered to look for Lebo and Pulla because everybody knew they didn't want to be found. That's some sweet art there. All right, flipping the script, but again, this is just art I like, I guess, is the category we're in. Ruthless Negotiation.
I know who that is.
Ian, I will call out that we haven't
That's
seen
Cruel
a ton of
Claw.
flashback in this set.
If you
Let's
don't know
bring
who
in
that
flashback
is,
all of a sudden.
watch the
Yeah,
damn
because there
story
isn't a
and
ton
you'll
of
know.
flashback in the set. There's actually just one
Target
black
opponent
uncommon
exiles a
and one
card
blue
from their
uncommon, I
hand.
believe, unless I'm
If the
forgetting
spell
maybe
was
a rare or
cast
two.
from a
But it was
graveyard.
just a little light addition
Draw a
there. We
card.
sort of decided that flashback is something that
Oh,
is
so
sort
if
of
you
deciduous,
flashback
that can
it,
appear,
you
know,
get to
from
draw.
time to time in sets without being a major mechanic, and it just made sense to have a couple flashback cards here, given the
Target
great
opponent exiles a card from their
of
hand. So
the
do they get
rats
to
and
they
the
get to
squirrels.
choose?
So you just see a little bit of hint of that in the set.
A little bit, yeah. And again, with some fantastic art here.
Sweet, just
And then finally, Repel Calamity is some art we used
Oh,
really
wow.
early on, and we figured we might as well show what the card actually does
Yeah,
here.
this
So,
is one of the first art
we've
pieces they
seen,
revealed. And there's
in
the
a
card
lot
for
of
it, Repel
variations of this
Calamity.
destroy target big creature sort of thing. So how did we land at Repel Calamity?
Interesting.
Yeah, sort of the next in line of
The living
variants
seasons
here. We
come
just
to
wanted make
grow,
sure that
to
there was a little
burn,
bit
to wither,
more
and to
removal
freeze.
available, especially for the
As
large
natural as it
communities
is for the
that
Calamity
appear
Beasts to
higher
live,
rarity,
it is
especially
just
now
as
that we're
natural for
moving
them
into
to
the new
die.
play booster world,
Whoa!
there's
So the
more,
Calamity Beasts are kind of
rares
like
appearing in
just
the drafts and stuff. We just want to make
they're
sure there's
like
just a little bit
nature's
more,
way of
availability of answers.
Makes
causing
sense.
destruction,
And also fantastic art, and
you
I
know,
honestly
in a
swear to
natural
you,
kind of
did not
beautiful
put together
way.
Repel Calamity and the fact that this kills Calamity Beasts together until just this moment.
That's cool.
So good job naming team.
forgot this
Finally,
set.
we do have the set symbols here. Just
so
to
invested.
put 'em out there
I'm
because
so
it
invested.
shows you what- So we got Bloomburrow.
We've
main
seen
set.
these.
We've got the commander in the middle and special guests. That is the same special guests
Yep.
symbol that we use for all of the special guests. All right, we do have time for
Okay.
some questions. So if you have
Questions.
any questions, go ahead and put them in chat. It helps for
What
me. if you
questions do we
say
have?
At Magic, and we will ask Ian and Oliver. About
I just want to
these.
know about the
So
flavor
let's
behind
start
some of
with,
these
ba-ba-da-ba-ba.
creatures. Why do lizards care
Tell me
about
there is
my opponent is a knife?
Sorin. You can't actually
I
tell
can't
them
yet,
that.
but we may find out down the road.
Let's see.
So yeah, this is not. We
right.
have so much left to
First, just the
see.
art is amazing, and then will there be support for 3 colors in limited? Since you probably want to mix and match at least 2 creature types.
That's a good question.
Yeah, so we definitely made sure there's ample mana fixing in limited, and certainly throughout playtesting, people did definitely splash or play 3 colors. You know, for example, I mentioned earlier.
Okay,
that,
so it's not all
rats and
just
squirrels
to
play well together. If you want to build a Sultai deck, these aren't the primary strategies. I wouldn't imagine that you've got 4 people at a draft table doing 3+ colors or anything like that. But if
it's just if you want to be extra,
and we definitely put the tools in the set to be able to do that.
It'll be fun.
All right.
That's
will
cool.
All 14 cards and play boosters be from the Bloomburrow main set and standard playable?
Yeah, I believe that's correct. I'd have to double check on that. Like, let me not commit to an answer on that yet. We might have some more information for you.
I believe you can get some non-one. Yeah, but let's not commit to that right now.
Yeah.
All right. With the paw prints, so the seasons, do you get the pause to spend just from casting the modal spell, or it is a separate resource you can get in different ways?
Yeah, we touched on that earlier, but yeah, just to clarify that again, those spells are totally self-contained. So when every time you cast a spell, you get sort of 5 points worth to spend on the modes. There's no external way of getting additional points, before you cast the spell, and you can't carry any over to the next spell. It's just totally self-contained.
All right. Can I break a promise when I gift? I'm not really a gift-giving kind of person.
It's a good question, good question. So the way gift works, and again, we'll have a whole rules FAQ and stuff like that, but basically, as you cast the spell, you're making the decision of whether to promise the gift to your opponent or not.
Listen, I'm giving gifts.
They receive the gift as the spell is resolving. So if somebody counterspells the spell...
Imagine that. Do you pay the gift?
Reason,
no.
Your opponent
Fuck
won't
you.
get the gift if you're not also getting the spell effect.
All right.
That's funny.
This is the most important.
You can't have a fish.
Blake, what would you be if you went to Bloomburrow? And we'll all answer this.
What would you be,
I
Blake?
have my answer ready because our team actually talked about this yesterday.
Do I have to be, one of
either
the animal
an otter
types?
or a rat.
I guess so.
Probably depending on my mood. I leaned otter, but I have to be realistic, and sometimes I would probably be a rat.
Blake's
question.
a rat.
I'd probably be a bird of some sort.
Okay.
I like helping other people out. Communities around me.
Ian's a sweetheart.
An owl, maybe, just because sometimes I kind of like to stay
little curveball.
Stay a little bit alert.
He's got some darkness to him.
Playing into the wise elder kind of aspect or whatever.
Cool.
Yep.
That's a good answer.
I would definitely be an otter. I just like casting spells and frolicking in the river. Sounds like a good lifestyle.
It does. It does.
Has this dude said anything?
They hold hands with each other. Anyway.
Or am I being most insane?
All right. Was there
like
any
said much.
intentionality to create cards with text boxes with
I'm
fewer
sorry if you have,
words
Oliver,
or
and I've just
simpler
ignored you.
mechanics? We talked a little bit about that with enters.
Yeah, it's always something that we're thinking about. There's always a careful balance between making cards that are, simpler and more accessible and have fewer words on them versus making things that are exciting and are going to, wow fans of Magic that have been playing for 5, 8, 10 years, right? So it's always a little bit of a push and pull there, and it's always sort of a value calculation of like, are these extra words worth it versus can we trim some words and still get 95% of the functionality that we want out of this card.
All right. Is the dragon bird from a different plane than Bloomburrow? It seems odd. We don't have any other dragons.
Yeah, I don't want to necessarily spoil anything.
Yeah,
I think there might be some more information.
It's a spoiler.
It's a great question, and you're definitely catching on to the right things.
Yep, we saw a lot.
That's in the story.
I will call out to all of the Bloomburrow story is out. It's 5 episodes. The last episode came out yesterday.
Yeah.
So you can read it all again on dailymtg.com.
Doesn't take long.
There's also an
5
audio
episodes,
version
like 2.5 hours.
All out already. So if you're more the podcasting type, you can listen to the Bloomburrow story being read. So if you haven't checked out the story,
audiobook is the way to go.
Really well received. So there are 5 episodes.
It's good. It's just not long enough.
Let's see.
It's too rushed. But it is a good.
It
is pretty good.
Sable and/or
enjoyable.
creatures in Bloomburrow. We did see that there are.
Give me more
some
possums.
kind of
That possum card
was
great.
Types, so sable
Give
or
me
ferret?
more possums.
I don't want to speak to either of those specifically, just because I don't recall exactly where.
At least I could play that possum deck in my Raccoons. It's great.
And art treatments and things like that. But there
it's a mana
are,
dork,
like
so
you said,
it's
lots of
always going to be good.
We call them cameo creatures.
It's the best thing so far.
Of just making sure that in addition to the 10 majorly supported creature types,
I need to have a proper look at the Raccoon Commander again.
Who are fans of those. And just
I really do
the
hope it's good.
variety of the plane in general.
Because I've
I saw a
committed
question
to
about when we're going to show off the special guest cards.
taking
That's
that
gonna be next week's show.
Commander
We're gonna
deck.
talk about special guest cards, and we're going to talk about Courageous Critters, basically things that have.
I did say I was
really
happy
cool
just to
art
take whatever
treatments.
everyone didn't want.
We're going to talk about. We're going to
So I
have
guess it's my fault.
some art folk on the show next week. Let's see.
Oh, I just want to sit here and just look
Whoa,
at the cards
jumped
now.
on me here. Let's see.
Come on, Blake.
Is the list back with Bloomburrow? So that's
The list.
No, it's special guests. So yes and no.
Yeah, and that goes back to the earlier question of like, are all of the cards in the play boosters from the main set?
So for those that don't know, special guests are
Special
cards
guests can
that
show up and they are the
they're
ones
cards
are
that will
a
be
little
in the
different.
set. You can open them up in your packs,
Um,
but they're not standard legal.
Will we get a board
So
wipe?
you can use them in like Commander and stuff like that, but you're not allowed to use them in
fact,
standard.
I think we saw a variant of one earlier, right?
You can draft them, as far as I'm aware.
Be a kind of board
You
wipe.
can't play
Yeah.
them in standard. There'll be old cards like reprints and stuff that will be too
Does
powerful.
Offspring always cost 2?
No, it's not necessarily always 2. The ones we saw were, but there are a variety of costs for Offspring.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Is Offspring multi-kicker? So this is a good clarification. Can you pay it once, twice?
You can only pay it once.
Can only
You
pay
get
Offspring
at least
once.
one
You get
additional
one baby, and that is it.
Are there going to be a lot of food-making spells?
Yeah, there's definitely a good amount of food in the set. It's both a great
Lots
flavor
of
fit in
food.
terms of the
We knew.
pastoral
Yeah, that was
environment,
obvious.
and then also plays into the squirrel mechanic specifically. One thing we try to do is give you other things to do with your food rather than just sacrificing it to gain life.
Yeah, that's
because
cool.
That can tend to inflate life totals and make limited games go longer.
Yes.
So you'll see lots of things to do with food in addition.
Give
to
us
food
things
itself.
to do with
And
food.
Oliver, I think this is a good question for you. How do you balance the
Yeah,
power
give
of the
Oliver
set
a
with
question.
the fact that most of the creatures are small?
Yeah, yeah. So for limited, the raccoons tend to be on the bigger side, so it helps like give them a clear identity. And then for constructed, it's
Big,
actually kind of
stompy
nice 'cause,
raccoons.
you know, cheaper cards tend to be stronger in constructed, so it's easy to make a lot of like the rares and exciting legendary cards in the set on the cheaper side to give them a better shot in constructed.
All right. Did you ever consider heroic instead of valiant?
We didn't.
Don't really
specifically
still understand the
consider
difference
heroic.
between
The Vision Design team did hand off Valiant more or less
those
where it is
two.
right now. We did try a couple different variants of Valiant in terms of like, being able to trigger multiple times per turn or what things did and didn't trigger it before settling on the final version. Heroic specifically,
Can't
I
sell
would
it
say, having worked on
really
sets like Theros in the past,
interests
requires
me
a lot of set infrastructure around it, and here we knew
as
we
a
wanted Valiant
mechanic.
to just be
I've never been a big fan of
Valiant,
just
which
like
is really
buffing
the
one
one
card
that
of loads of
plays in the
equipment
set,
and
right? 'Cause
stuff. It
it's
just
one of the 10 color pairs.
doesn't
So we knew
interest
we wanted
me.
something that was a little bit easier to do and sort of a tighter floor and ceiling.
Do you know what? I wish I had a cup of tea right now.
As compared to heroic, so that's kind of where we landed on Valiant.
That'd have been
as a heroic
perfect
variant.
vibe. Sitting here watching this with a nice cup
I
of
did see
tea.
a question about whether you can open commander cards in play boosters, asking for draft. I believe the answer for this set is no. Looking at the breakdown, and again, after the show,
Okay.
you can head to dailymtg.com.
There are
There's
also
a full
cards that
collecting article will be
exclusively
up. But just
for
looking at the breakdown of
Commander.
play boosters, it says that each play booster will contain 6 to 7
And they will
commons.
not be in the play
Some of
boosters.
those play boosters will contain.
So I'm
a
assuming
card
they'll
from
be in the
list, which is what
collector
we're talking about
booster,
instead of common.
or unless they're talking
And
about
then,
those are the cards that are only in
The
can be found in the
list says
commander
cards
decks.
found on the list in Bloomburrow are special guest cards. So that's the only slot where you can get sort of non-main set cards out of. Oh, actually, I saved.
Man,
the
I'm
one
so
per
excited to
slot.
see the deck list for these commander decks as well.
I don't want to speak 100% to that because there might be.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll get that answer afterwards. Let's see. With the magic cards, so I think this is referring to the tokens having converted mana cost. Does this mean other cards like Roxanne's Meteorite token now has a 5 mana value? So this isn't a rule change, right? This is just how the Offspring mechanic
Correct.
works.
Yeah. In order to make
Only the
Offspring as simple as
Offspring
possible,
Have mana
just
values.
being able to say, hey, it's a copy of the creature except it's 1/1 is the simplest way we can convey that. But in doing so, the rules then say
Man,
it's also
yes, show me
inherited
these
mana
possums
cost.
again.
So we want to make sure that that mana cost was
They're all
reflected on
amazing.
the token, but in a way that didn't trick you into thinking the token was its own
It's just the
individual, individual magic card.
I mean, the showcase one is cool as well. It's a very different vibe, but look at that. It's so funny with the little derpy one in the back. Oh, I bloody love that card.
Let's see. I'm seeing a number of good questions.
I want it.
Any arena questions?
I want a foil version.
Head to the arena blog after this. There will be an arena article going up that will cover at least some of these questions. I'm trying to get through this quickly because we are almost out of time. I am seeing questions about whether Phyrexians missed Bloomburrow during the invasion. I don't think you guys know. That's not your area of
That might be a
expertise.
question for next week when the art.
Yeah, we'll talk about that a little bit later. So
They couldn't be bothered.
Here is going to be our final question because I know you can answer this one. How many Calamity Beasts are there? And then what
Good question.
of color identities do we get for the Calamity Beasts?
Ooh, that's tough. You're really testing my memory.
I am. How many I think you can do?
So how many total Calamity Beasts are there? I want to say there's around 10 total.
Okay.
10.
Yeah, between like 8 and 10-ish, plus or minus a couple. And sorry, what was the second?
Because we know some of they're not all monocolored. Because there was a green,
So we do have a cycle of
black one.
mythic monocolor Calamity Beasts, and then there's sort of just a smattering of them in different color combinations at rare. Including the one multicolor one that we saw earlier. Yeah.
The one that turns
so
everything
they're
into
not
food,
hard cycled in a way, which is part of why it's a little bit tough to tell you exactly how many are in the set off the top of my head.
Because they're not all
It's
mythics.
a cycle of 5 mythics plus a smattering of rare ones.
All right.
Yeah,
Great.
how do I feel about that?
is
I thought
all
it would
the
have been
time we
cool
have.
if you
That's
just
our
made them
hour,
all
but
mythics.
Bloomburrow is going to
But then I
march
guess
on. Previews are going to
if you have
continue
that,
throughout the
then
internet. Today, tomorrow,
they
in the
would
next week,
be too.
we
Like
are
every time
gonna
you
be
get mythic,
back
it would be a
on
Calamity
the
Beast,
MTG
which it's not a bad
next
thing.
week.
But
And again, we're going to be talking art. We are specifically going to be looking at special guest cards and the Courageous Critters to talk
Special
about
guest
concepting
and
those
Courageous
and doing a lot of
Critters.
fun stuff with that art. So
gimme
head to
Bloomburrow info.
dailymtg.com after this for all of the details on all of the things.
Oh, you know I'm
including
heading
a
there.
list of where to find previews on what days and what websites or social media accounts or wherever it may be. Until
I
then,
am scouring.
Ian, thank
I
you,
will
Oliver,
find it
and
all.
We'll see you next week.
That's it. There we go. Wow. So yeah, it was a long one. Yeah. Wow. So final thoughts. There are. I'm a bit disappointed. We'll start with the negative. A bit disappointed with some of the animal types from a flavor standpoint. I understand that it can be really, really hard to try and come up with really good flavor stuff, like for everything. So maybe my expectations were a little bit too high. Who knows? Or maybe once I get to play it, or maybe it's just me being dumb and I just haven't realized it, and I'm like, oh my god, that's why they did it. That's so cool. So yeah, let me know in the comments below what your thoughts are. But yes, other than that though, like so much things to be looked forward to. There were so many cards. There's so much information thrown at us. I really want to now to go through all of the different sets and have a look through that stuff. So yeah, very, very, very excited about that. And yeah, that's it. There we go. My mind is like, cannot wait for this set. Yes. Okay, cool. This video has been long enough. Thank you all for sticking through it if you watched it to the end. And yeah, I will see you in the next bit of Bloomburrow information. Cheers, guys.